We're rolling. Love it. Thank you, bro. Olivia Moore, welcome to the Breadcrumb Mojito.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess we will start off with some introductions. Tell me a little bit about yourself and everyone listening.
Yeah, so I am a food photographer and recipe developer. So hugely interested in food and always have been.
Mm-hmm.
And photography sort of just came naturally. Like I've always just had a camera in my hand. Always when I was younger, just taking photos of anything.
Yeah.
Like trees, just anything. And then once I started my Instagram page, I got Instagram when I hit high school, and all I was posting was food. And I got people saying like, oh, why don't you just start a food page, because that's all you ever post. And I did, and I got brands starting to reach out to me saying, can you use this product in your photos, just in exchange for product.
Nice.
And then started getting brands asking me for my rates, and that's when I realised, oh, I can actually make some money from this.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So that's how it's growing.
Yeah,
Just started off casual Instagram.
Yeah, I did not expect it to grow. I did not expect this to be my full-time job, because that's what it is now.
Love it. Well,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a perfect example of the Breadcrumb Mojito. Stumbling into something that you weren't 100% prepared for at the start.
Yeah,
and growing
totally.
it. How unhospitable of me. Would you like a drink?
Oh, yes, please. I'd love a drink.
Marvellous. Let's get a cocktail rolling. Hey, Cody, you able to hook us up with a drink, please, bro? Love it. Thanking you. Marvellous. So how long ago did the Instagram stuff sort of start and really start to kick off? Because I think you're 14,000 followers or something.
Now,
around that at the
now
moment?
14,000. Yeah, so I started my Instagram when I was about 14, I think, or 13 or 14. And it was literally just like cupcakes that I baked, and I would just take a photo and post it and whatever. I think I had my first paying client when I was 15,
Yeah.
and they became like a monthly client. So
Okay.
even while I was at school, and I also had another business while I was at school.
Quite the
So
serial
I was
entrepreneur.
like, yeah, but I loved it because I'm just so passionate about food.
Yep.
And I just get so excited by it, and I just want to share it.
Yeah. Where does that come from?
I don't really know. My twin sister is the same, like she's so into food.
Okay.
Both sort of different styles of food, but just really, really passionate about it.
Yeah, and so she does all the photography and stuff like you?
No, she is a chef.
Okay.
So
She's in the weeds.
yeah,
fully
she's literally,
into cooking.
I don't know if I could be a chef. I think, I'm worried that it would take the passion out of it.
Yep.
But she's still hugely passionate about it anyway, and she's like doing competitions and stuff, which is cool.
Love it.
But yeah, we've just gone quite different routes, but still in food. And it's interesting, so I don't really know where we got our inspired food passion from.
Yeah.
Like mum loves cooking, but she likes the basics and the Edmonds cookbook and stuff like that. Whereas me and Brooke have just gone like crazy. We
Yep.
just love the most random out there combinations, and
Yep.
always wanting to dine out and try new restaurants. And
Love it.
Yeah.
And it all stems from Mum's cooking, from the Edmonds cookbook.
Yeah.
I actually brought the latest edition of the Edmonds cookbook for my mum because she's just the
Aw.
same. Every recepe we had growing up was out of the Edmonds cookbook.
Yeah.
Like, that is such
It's
a
kind of
staple
just-
in the house.
And it is just like the Kiwi staple. Like
Yeah.
everyone can relate to that book, but every family's Edmonds cookbook has scribbles in it and things
Yep.
that they've added in.
Yeah,
Like, even
yeah,
my
yeah.
mum's one, there's pages ripped out, or like
Added pages.
Yeah.
Found this one in the Women's Weekly. I'm going to whack that in there,
Yeah.
keep it in the famous cookbook.
yeah, my mum's got this massive like folder, like a ring binder.
Yeah.
And it's just magazine pages or just random things that have been ripped out and scribbled all over.
Love it. So I guess the passion for cooking really stems from that.
Yeah.
Growing up, watching Mum cook recipes and
Yeah.
enjoy being in the kitchen and things like that. And
Yeah.
you both seem to run with it.
Yeah, like mum had the Women's Weekly cookbooks. She always had those, and I loved looking through them.
Yeah.
Because me and my sister used to alternate. Every week we would have somebody doing the baking for the week and somebody doing the pudding for the weekend. So me and Brooke would alternate who gets to make baking and who gets to make pudding.
Okay.
And it was always this big ordeal. I'd open up all of mum's cookbooks and try and find the best recipe to cook for baking this week, and then make tabs, and I'm going to make this next week. I used to like interview our family and say, right, should I choose this recipe or this recipe?
Love it.
It's
So
I just love
I guess there was a bit of competition there as well.
There was.
Like very competitive
Definitely.
between the two of you.
And because me and Brooke, like, because we're twins and we're both into food, we're both into the same thing, we grew up being very, very competitive
Yep.
in every aspect, like everything. But I think that helped us to develop our own styles as well.
Yep.
So even though we're both hugely into food, we both appreciate it in different realms. Yeah, so I think that it was a good thing in a way because it helped us to, just kind of become our own people.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what we are going to talk about is your cookbook that you've
Yes.
just brought out.
Yeah.
And so it's quite cool hearing the origination of the story from, going through the Edmonds cookbook
Yeah.
at home and competitively cooking with your sister to now having your own cookbook, which I guess we better get into it. That green olive
Yeah.
cookbook. So all of the recipes in here, are they sort of maybe a combination of your favorite recipes that you've found, or a mixture of those and some of your own creations, any of your sister's creations, things like that? How did you sort of go about putting it all together?
Yeah, well, so I work as a recipe developer. So I work with, he's got his cocktails.
Yeah, come on in.
Can't wait for the cocktails.
Come on in. And
Ooh.
there's another one, white label. White label, yeah.
What was I saying? Oh, the cookbook, yeah. So, because I work as a recipe developer, and so I work with food brands to create recipes for their own businesses.
Yep.
So this is what I've been doing for the past 3-4 years.
Okay,
Yeah, so that is a main passion of mine, and so I'm just always getting ideas, and I always want to be creating new recipes. And so when the cookbook, well, I've always wanted to have a cookbook. That
Yep.
was always a dream. I just didn't expect it to happen this early. But yeah, when I got the contract from Penguin Random House, that was in August last year,
Mm-hmm.
I originally had until the start of December to,
Okay.
to create, test each recipe 3 or 4 times and get feedback, then create to photograph, edit, type, send back to the publisher, then do months of revisions,
Yes.
then goes to the printer and blah blah blah. So there was a big process.
That sounds like quite the process. And I guess there's a lot of security in doing all of it yourself. Being into the photography, being
yeah.
into the cooking, doing it all yourself. There's a lot of creative control
Definitely.
over it, as opposed to just sort of writing some recipes and having someone else do it all for you, which would have clearly been a lot less work.
Yeah.
But the work was clearly worth it.
Yeah. That was because I'm a huge perfectionist.
Thank you, bro.
I don't think I could handle having somebody else take the photos. I couldn't handle it because it's because the recipes to me are so personal as well. So I know exactly how I want them to be portrayed.
Yep.
Because the images to me, you should get a story through the images.
Yep.
And so I have a story of how I want the vibe, the mood of that recipe to be. So when people look at the photos, they need to understand exactly what that recipe is going to make them feel, or
Yep.
the story that I have behind it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
While we're here, little
thank
pineapple
you.
chili margarita.
It's crisp.
Delicious, yeah, very much so. Now, you gave us a copy of your cookbook, myself and my partner, and I was having a read through the front of it, and there was so Amanda was looking through it, and she was kind of like, wow, a lot of these recipes are quite technical in it. And I made the comment to her, I was like, did you not read the start of the book? And she was like, no. And there was a line in there, I'm probably going to butcher it word for word, but something about how, a set of kitchen scales is paramount because there are things that, teaspoons and cups cannot measure, and the scales are required. And I thought that kind of perfectly set up for the style of cooking that you're going to be doing. Everything's going to be very involved, very meticulously measured, because there is a specific flavor profile. And so when you are designing the recipes, are you kind of winging it and throwing stuff in and just writing down what you adding, or is it more regimented in terms of you're like, I'm going to start with a gram of each of these things and then add a gram or so as it develops?
Yeah, it's different depending on the style of recipe.
Yeah.
So with baking, you can't mess around. That's why I say use the kitchen scales, because say if you have a cup of brown sugar, if you pack it in, you could get twice the amount per weight as if you were just to lightly spoon it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with baking, you really can't mess around.
Yeah.
With cooking, like just, chugging stuff in a pan and all that, you can be a bit more forgiving. You can add if it asks for a quarter of a cup of parsley, you can put half a cup in, and you'll get a different flavour profile, but it's not going to affect how the recipe turns out.
Yes.
Whereas with baking, if you put half the amount of flour in, you're not going to end up with a cake. You're going to end up with a gooey mess.
Yeah, totally. I think was it Marco Pierre White had the line about cooking is an art, but baking is a science.
Yes, it is. It is a science.
And it's very measured. Just like you say, you don't measure the flour, you're not going to end up with a cake.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't measure the salt and pepper when you're cooking a steak, you're still going to end up with a steak.
Yeah. And but things like salt too. I'm very meticulous about salt. I think people don't salt their food enough.
Yeah.
Really, when you, to me, salt, because it just brings out different flavours that you didn't even know were there. It's not making it salty, it's actually just bringing out flavours before it gets salty. But I can't believe how many people just kind of don't put salt because they're like, I don't want it to be salty.
Yeah.
But you need the salt because it brings out flavours.
And I think there's a little bit of, I don't know where it comes from, but people are afraid of salt.
Yeah.
It's like the doctors always told them they put too much salt in their food, salt's bad, and that has kind of carried on into how people cook throughout their life. But I'm like you, salt, heaps of salt.
And even a bit of sugar too, a bit of sugar doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
If I make a salad dressing or something, a teaspoon of sugar is not going to affect you. Really, it's not going to, but it will affect the flavour.
Yeah, 100%. So, in a lot of the recipes, what was there sort of, have you been inspired from travelling? Is it mainly inspired from childhood, just what you've seen at different places? I'm sure you've sat in a lot of different restaurants and bars and tried a lot of different things. And so does that just fuel?
Inspirations come from a lot of different aspects. So one of my favourite things to do is just go to a restaurant, particularly in Auckland. I go to Auckland quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'll just sit in the restaurant with a book and just either people watch or read the book and then try the menu, because I love just going to restaurants and just trying different things from the menu, and then maybe speaking to the chef if it's like an open kitchen or I just love that. I just love experiencing what another chef has created.
Yes.
Yeah, so that does really inspire me, and I end up discovering new ingredients and flavour combinations. Especially looking at menus, restaurant menus in Auckland or Wellington, that sort of tends to be where things start.
Yeah.
And then they filter out to places we still don't really get much of it here anyway, but it always seems to come here a bit later.
Yeah.
So a lot of the ingredients actually in the book I discovered just from dining out at restaurants and, seeing ingredients that I've never heard of before or that we can't really get here.
So what would be, so on ingredients, what would be the most standout, unique ingredient that when you came across it you were just like, fuck, that is, I'm doing that?
Definitely the best one that comes to mind is, I can't really pronounce it, but I'll say nduja. Nduja. It's spelt N or apostrophe Nduja, and it's an Italian spicy sausage spread. It's like it's similar in taste to chorizo. But it's almost like a pate texture. And you see it in restaurant menus everywhere in Auckland and Wellington. Not really here yet.
Interesting.
But typically it's served with seafood.
Yep.
But you see it a lot on pizzas and pasta as well, because it just melts. It's really fatty, spicy, smoky. It's just, you open the jar, just the smell of it is just insane.
Interesting. And so would that be a relatively difficult ingredient to find in sort of, rocking into Countdown?
I don't think you can get it in Countdown. You can get it at the merchant here.
Okay.
But I think New World like we don't have New World here, but I think New World
Has
would
it?
have it.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
But
So it's not like an obscure ingredient that you
No.
have to go down this back alley to an Asian supermarket and
No.
there it is on the back corner.
No. It's because it's become quite mainstream now. It was sort of like a trend,
Yep.
and so it is becoming more mainstream. But there are some ingredients. Yeah, even like pandan is an ingredient
Yep.
that I love.
Yeah,
You
pandan's
can get
delicious.
that. Yeah. I love it. You can get that at the Asian supermarkets
Yep.
in the freezer. But yeah, I mean, it's just about discovering new ingredients and getting inspired.
Yeah.
That's
Exploring.
that's what I want to do.
Yep.
Another reason that I get inspired, obviously the Edmonds cookbook. So a lot of the recipes sort of take inspiration from those familiar ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to see an idea like a scone. Oh yeah, that's familiar. I know how to make that. I know what that would taste like. But putting interesting spins on it. So that's a way to encourage people to try something new. Taking a familiar idea, but having interesting new ingredients.
Yeah. Like you say, just putting a different spin on it, taking the palate on a little bit more of a journey than
Yeah.
just the plain old cheese scone or something.
Because I think it is quite hard to encourage people to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
But if they think, oh, I really want to try this scone, I know how to make scones. Oh yeah, this is an ingredient that I never would have thought to buy, but I want to make these scones, so I'll try it.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think there are recipes in there like a pinwheel scone. Actually, that ingredient nduja
Okay.
is in the pinwheel scones.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just taking it, pinwheel scones, like you're used to seeing the Marmite and cheese ones, but just taking a different ingredient that people probably wouldn't try otherwise.
Yeah. My mum always made pinwheel scones for us growing up.
Yeah.
It was always cinnamon and brown sugar
Yes.
and like a touch of lemonade in the
Oh
batter.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I remember, we would be out doing chores with Dad in the yard, cleaning whatever we got to do, mowing the lawns, and Mum would make pinwheel scones and bring them out and just slather them with butter
Yes.
and sit there and
It's a
delicious.
tradition. Yeah, like my mum too. Every weekend, still to
Yep.
this day, makes scones every weekend.
Love it.
And also the Edmonds cookbook. She still has that. It's like really old, and it's just sort of wound, always open to that page.
Yep.
The scones,
Yep.
because it's sort of the only recipe that she makes from it anymore. But yeah,
You'd think
every
she just
weekend-
knew it off the top of her head
I
now.
think she does.
Like, don't even
I think
need
it's
it.
more of like a comfort thing. Like, just pull out the Edmonds cookbook.
Doesn't feel like baking or cooking without the cookbook sitting around.
Yeah.
She's just making it up.
Yeah. But
Love it.
that was another I've got to open this recipe. So the lemonade scones. I took inspiration from the lemonade scones and used beer
Okay.
as the carbonated
Yeah.
ingredient. So the beer obviously adds that carbonation, but then it also adds a little umami, savoury sort of taste.
mhm.
And with the cheese and dill, it's just, these are my favourite scones ever.
Okay.
Like, they really are. And
They look
Dad's favourite
delicious.
scones. Yeah, and
Love
Dad's
it.
been having Mum's scones every weekend for the past I don't know how many years, and he said that these are his favourite.
Oh well, this book and recipe will probably be the one that sits on the counter
Yeah.
and replaces the Edmonds cookbook.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
So, a lot of the sort of different restaurants that you've been to and inspired in flavours and things like that, is there any sort of standout restaurants that you would always go back to because you kind of know that they are always going to push the limit a little bit more and you perhaps have the opportunity to learn something every time you dine there?
Yeah.
Or do you just have a favourite that you just like going there because you kind of know what to expect and that's more comfort food?
There's a bit of both. Like every time I go to Auckland, I'm always just like I have an agenda.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to this restaurant, this restaurant, this restaurant, this restaurant. But Rue and Parnell,
Yeah.
I love them, and they're the loveliest people. But every time I go there, I'm just amazed at just the different methods and ingredients that they're using. It's just like how they can combine ingredients. I used to go to Alpha. Alpha used to be in that same spot.
Okay, yep.
I remember my first time there was just like mind blowing what they were doing, and it was a lot of vegetables and
Mm-hmm.
just amazing flavors that I would not even expect.
Yep.
Like they had choy sum dipped in pistachio butter with bee pollen, and I was like, I was like, because originally I thought, oh, it's a vegetable dish, but I'll just order it as something fresh. But it ended up being the most memorable dish from my entire meal.
Okay.
And it's amazing, just the flavors and the ingredients that they're using can just be so memorable, and it just made me feel mind blowing and so inspired.
Love it.
Yeah, but Embra here in Taupo as well, like they are so awesome.
Yeah.
And just watching Phil plating up his dishes, it's a real art.
Yeah,
And
100%.
the concentration.
Yeah.
And I've seen like his scribbles and stuff, like the drawings and all of that,
Yeah.
and scribbling out words, and there's a whole process behind it, and that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I love about food, is that it is creative expression.
Yeah, I was just gonna what was going through my head was like it's very much an art,
It is, yeah.
and yeah, the scribbles and everything like that. Anyone that writes music or draws, it always starts with a scribble.
Yeah.
It's never properly printed down and okay,
Yeah.
I've decided on this, because they know that the creative juices are going to flow and they're going to play around with it and they're going to make tweaks, so it doesn't have to look perfect when it's on paper, but by the time it hits the plate, it is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And there's just the experiment time that goes throughout making that sort of dish.
Same as like me with the cookbook as well. Like
Exactly.
at night, all my creative ideas come at night.
Yep.
So I just couldn't sleep. So I'd just be up scribbling ideas, and I'd just get so many ideas in a single night. I might get like 10 different ideas, and I'd just constantly turn the light on, scribbling it down, turn it off. Oh, write that. Oh no, cross that off because this flavour sounds better. Like just getting so many ideas, and that was actually probably one of the most difficult parts of the process.
Yeah.
Was trying to decide which ideas to run with, and just like forcing myself to just stick with this idea.
Yeah. Tackle the challenge that's in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Just hit up that one.
Because it's hard to stop the inspiration. Like, there's
Yeah.
just always just so many ideas, and it's like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that.
And I guess it gets a little bit confusing, especially when you're doing something like a cookbook, that you have so many ideas that perhaps they can get muddied.
Yeah.
And you start crossing over, and did I think about doing that with this dish, or was that dish?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
confusing yourself, tripping over your own thoughts and type things. So
Yeah.
I guess it's good to really write it all down and hook into it.
Yeah.
And so, what was the journey like in writing a cookbook? Or did you always want to write a cookbook, or was it something that just sort of came up? Because we're talking about, how you started in doing the food photography and things like this, and you were posting so much food that it became a little business. And so, was there always a plan to do a cookbook?
Yeah. Well, I've always dreamed of having a cookbook since I was like tiny.
Yeah.
Because I always had mum's cookbooks, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I would love to do that one day. But when I started doing my photography, when that became my job, I was working with Pix Peanut Butter, so I still work with them.
Yeah.
They are actually my longest client.
Nice.
And so every month I create recipes for them. And they were doing a cookbook with contributors' recipes. So they had a bunch of people from New Zealand and Australia contributing recipes to go into this Pix Peanut Butter cookbook. And they approached me. And you had to send in your recipe to the publisher, Penguin Random House.
Yep.
So I thought, oh, okay, when I send in my recipe, I'll just put a little PS at the bottom. So I did. I just said, by the way, I linked to my Instagram and said, I would love to write a cookbook. Would you be interested in receiving a proposal from me? And they emailed back saying, yeah, like they liked my stuff and they wanted to receive a proposal.
Love
So
it.
I thought, oh.
So what does the proposal mean? What do you need for that?
Yeah, so probably took me a couple months to put together this proposal. Essentially, I treated it like a business plan. So the first part of the proposal was talking about why am I writing this book, why it will be a success, who my target audience is. So that was good that I had Instagram metrics so I could see age range, like just the demographic stuff,
Yep.
and why they will buy this book, why it's not the same as every other book on the shelf, but why it also is relevant enough to be on the shelf. Like there's all these different things. Treat it like
Yeah.
a marketing plan. And then also sample chapter or sample recipes. So I had recipes that I thought I want to include in the book. with photography, and then I laid it out in my own little way, like how how I saw the book.
Yeah,
being.
do like a little storyboard type thing.
Yeah, and then with the little story bits, like about my background and why, you know, I wanted to write this cookbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how long it was, probably 15, 20 pages. Yeah. As soon as I emailed it in, they were super keen. They said, come up to Auckland, we'll sign the contract. So I went up to Auckland, we signed the contract. It was so exciting.
Perfect. So what was the sort of the timeline? How long did it take from you writing in the first sort of contact with them with a little PS, I've got more to do, and having it properly released?
Oh, was it November? Oh, I can't remember. November 2022, I think.
Okay.
And I sent in, maybe.
And you brought it out like 6 months ago?
No, this only came out like 4 weeks ago.
Oh, it's that new. So when I was talking to you at the markets,
that
was like
the first week. I think when I gave you the book, that was the first week that it had been out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ground floor. Love it. I thought it had been out for a little bit because I had seen something on the Instagram.
I've been teasing it.
Okay.
Pre-orders, because I had pre-orders open like a month earlier.
Wow.
And I was sort of teasing it before then, but I had to try and keep it a secret for so long, and I did end up spilling the beans to a few people.
Yeah.
Asking me, oh, what have you been working on? Oh, you know.
And you're like, I'm slaving away.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's quite a long time, you know, November 22 up into what we're at, you know, the end of 2024 now, almost 2 years.
Yeah, of it being an idea, but the actual, like, when I signed the contract, that was in August last year.
Okay.
And I had until December originally.
It's
like
quick
over
turnaround.
100 recipes. That was, like, actually insane, because I was still working on, with my other clients as well.
Yeah.
And like September, October, November, December is my busiest time of the year. So it was just crazy. And I was having monthly video calls with my publisher, who was up in Auckland. And once I just said, oh, I'm really sorry, but can we please have an extension? And I felt so bad. I was so scared to ask. And she was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, we normally just put a really tight deadline on it just to make you really work.
Yeah. They don't want to say in 2 years' time it's coming out, because then your daughter in the last 6 months, it's a massive rush.
Yeah, and I guess because I'm solo as well, it takes a lot longer for a solo to work on it, because if you had a photographer and an author, recipe developer, it would be half the time, because they'd be working on their own things.
Yeah.
But because I was also photographing it and writing, it was just a huge
of work.
Job.
That's a lot of work to undertake. I don't know if I could do it myself. That is
but I'm
a lot.
passionate about it though.
Exactly, and you roll with the passion.
Yeah.
And when you have the passion for something, you just want to keep working, and finally get to the end result.
And I looked forward to it. I really looked forward to sitting down. Like, I love editing, even though it's the longest part of the process. But I when I was writing my cookbook, I was having my little wine and editing sessions.
Yep.
So I still do that now, like at midnight, because often I'll be shooting during the day.
Yes.
And then I'll be editing into the evening, and then up until midnight or sometimes 1 a.m. But I will just have my drink, and it's just a nice, peaceful, quiet, dark, cozy editing
focus
environment.
in the zone.
It's my favourite time to edit.
Little happy space.
Yeah.
Love it. So have you had the opportunity to travel quite a lot and try different food from different cultures and things like that?
Yeah. Earlier this year I went to Morocco.
Okay.
Which was awesome. I've been to Bali last year, which I loved tasting the food there as well, like the street food and just getting inspired that way. But man, Morocco was just eye-opening in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Like, what I love about Morocco as well is that even though they have their national dishes, each region has their own, and each family even, each little village has their own little ways of making them.
Okay.
So in like the coastal towns, like tagine really is quite a traditional dish in Morocco, but every tagine in every different part of the country is just so different. Like, if you're in a coastal town, you'll have shrimp or fish or whatever. If you go more inland, you're going to have goat or lamb, or there's just different ingredients, different ways. Yeah, everyone is just so different in the way that they prepare their food.
Okay, interesting. So it's not like a one size fits all.
No.
So what then makes up the base of the tagine that everyone then builds off and does their own thing.
Yeah, so they often a lot of the tagines, like if you have a lamb tagine or if you have a beef tagine, I think beef is normally with prunes, lamb is often with sultanas and honey, I think. Yeah, but they sort of like have their own. Each meat sort of has the ingredients that are familiar to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like chicken is often with preserved lemon and olives, which is
Okay.
interesting. Like they just sort of know. It's just like this thing. Like they know. Chicken tagine always preserved lemon, olives. Beef
Okay.
tagine always prunes. Like it's interesting. But then each family sort of does it differently as well.
Yeah, totally. And so you piqued my curiosity. Preserved lemon. How is that preserved? Are they pickling it? Are they salting? Like,
Oh yeah, I don't know too much about that, but man, like I've heard about preserved lemons a lot,
Okay.
especially because I'm super inspired by Ottolenghi, and he uses preserved lemons a lot, and it's not something that I've really found in New Zealand.
Okay.
Like at the merchant they have it, but over there we're having preserved lemons with everything, and it's just such an interesting taste. You would not think lemon when you try it. It does not
so
taste
it's
like
not
lemon.
super sour and acidic.
Oh, it's not acidic at all, really. It's more sour.
Okay.
It's almost like green olives, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. I mean, you still get that like that marmalade-esque flavour,
Okay.
but sour, salty, briny.
Okay, so like, sour, salty, not too sweet?
No, it's not sweet at all.
Not sweet at all.
No.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting flavour to describe.
Yeah.
It's like trying to describe feijoa.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Sour. That's pretty much all I get for
Cleaning
feijoa.
products.
Yeah.
But I love feijoa, it's delicious, yeah. But yeah, it's so interesting. And then the way that they, like every meal, you sit down and you start with your starters.
Yep.
So when you sit down at a Moroccan table, they'll bring out all these little tiny little dishes. You might have like 20 different like condiments, little salads, cooked salads, they all sort of, everyone knows what each of the dishes are because that's what they've grown up with, and everyone knows what everything is.
Yep.
Like the carrots are always done with cinnamon and honey, and the beetroot is always done in a certain way, and this is always done in a certain way.
Okay.
And you start with your little starters and your bread, and you just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and it's like your appetizer.
Interesting, and it seems very vegetable orientated.
Yeah.
In that kind of like, whether, as you mentioned, fish or goat or beef is kind of supplementary just to have a protein, but a lot of the flavour tends to come from the vegetables and the way that they work with them, and spices.
Spices are amazing. Yeah, like you start with those dishes, but there's you can't beat fresh produce.
Yeah.
Fresh seasonal produce. The oranges over there do not compare to the oranges here.
Okay, in a good way, bad way?
No, they're amazing over
They're
there.
amazing. Okay,
They're so sweet, so full of flavour.
Okay, yeah.
They have orange juice stalls, especially in Chefchaouen, which is a blue city. All the buildings are blue, everything's blue. And they have orange juice stalls, like, in a space, probably like one there, just everywhere.
Yeah.
And all the little streets, there's just orange juice stalls everywhere. And they make the orange juice in front of you. They have their fresh oranges. And you pay like $1 for 500 mils. And we were just smashing orange juices all day, every day.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Brings a whole new idea to the kids on the corner with the lemonade stands.
Yeah.
Orange juice is a big business over there in Morocco.
Yeah, and because that's the thing, like we were eating so much, we were drinking so much, but you need to because it's so hot and you're just on your feet the whole day. When you're traveling, you're just constantly, your brain is just constantly working, your body is constantly working, you're sweating, you just constantly need to be eating and drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess good vitamins, good sugars.
Yeah.
I guess they've been there so long, they really know what is the best sort of diet to have for living in that environment and what gives them everything they need, and get some good vitamin C, get some good water, get some good sweetness and acidity and things like that. And
That's
working out in the sun all day.
It's the importance of eating local and seasonal as well, though, because I used to be super into nutrition. It's interesting how your body craves what it needs. So in winter, like the produce that grows in winter is really what your body needs during those months. And
Yep.
same as in summer, the fruit and vegetables that grow in summer, they have the nutrients that you need in those months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so interesting. But now when you can buy imported vegetables at any time of the year and they
Yep.
don't have the same nutrients, because
Yep.
they're
Been
not organic and-
artificially
yeah.
sort of ripened and things like that.
Yeah, so it's like when you go to places like that and you're eating literally what is in season, what
Yep.
is local, that is exactly what your body needs, and it feels really good to eat it. It's like,
Mhm.
that is exactly what I needed.
So, having, I know that cooking is a lot of just coming from the heart, being creative, cooking food that tastes delicious. Do you ever find a conflict in your own head about the nutritional value and what you should be eating for that time of year and what you actually just feel like eating?
Yeah, I used to be really into nutrition. Not so much anymore, but I still eat pretty healthy, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I still eat a lot of vegetables and stuff as well. But I think, yeah, you don't want to get too caught up in what you should be eating, because there comes a time you just got to enjoy it too.
Yes, yeah. Where's the balance between enjoying food or
Yeah,
sticking to a diet?
You've got to really enjoy it. I don't like diets. I think just eat in balance, eat a bit of that, still enjoy a cake or...
Yeah,
Like
just
I
don't
say,
overindulge.
I eat everything, but I also know, okay, I shouldn't eat too much of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like a lot of the recipes in the book, there's a lot of focus on vegetables as well.
Mm-hmm.
And even though a lot of the vegetable dishes have a lot of like oils or butter or things with them as well, but it's more... Recipes like that encourage you to just discover new ways of enjoying those vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people don't want to eat Brussels sprouts, they don't eat broccoli or whatever because they've just had it boiled or steamed.
Yeah.
And it's just ruined it for them and they don't even want to touch it again.
Yeah.
But when you try cooking with them in the same way that you would cook chicken or, other meats or other proteins, you can actually achieve a really delicious dish. I think people just need to experiment more.
Yes.
And so, yeah, even though some of the vegetable dishes in there have a lot of cheese and a lot of butter and stuff, it's just trying to encourage you that yes, you can actually make these vegetables taste good, and you're still getting the nutrients in.
Yep.
Just along with.
100%. So
Yeah.
I guess, when people cook recipes from the cookbook, ideally you want them to follow the recipe to at least for the first one or the first couple until they get a hang, because I imagine, if someone has not done a lot of cooking, the reason they buy a cookbook is so that they are going to learn how to cook certain dishes, and there's
Yeah.
probably some techniques and things that you need to do a specific way, like if it's cooking a steak, when do you sear it and
Yeah.
things like that. But then there's also a little bit of creative freedom. After they've made the recipe once or twice, they can kind of, dealer's choice.
Yeah.
You can add a little bit of this or take out this component if you don't like it and things like that. And then once again, it starts to inspire some creativity in the people that are then learning from your cookbook and things like that.
Definitely.
And so do you have sort of any variations of the dishes that you do in the cookbook that you like to swap and try new things with when you're cooking it personally at home?
Yeah, like a lot of the herbs and stuff are sort of interchangeable.
Yep.
So the way, my whole food philosophy is that it is creative expression.
Yep.
So like all of these recipes is like my, like a bit of my my love for food and my story and all of that. So I want people to experience the dishes in the way that means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's not to say that it won't taste good if you put this in and put that in. But
Yeah.
I always want people to try it the way that I've made it first, so you get the gist of it. And yeah, it's easy to substitute ingredients, like swap out parsley for dill or vice
Yeah.
versa. Like it's easy to just change it, especially with cooking.
Mhm.
It's just when it comes to baking, that's when it gets a bit more tricky.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people, sometimes if it's like a salad dressing, people will ask, oh, can I use red wine vinegar instead of apple cider vinegar? Will that change it? It's like, no, it won't change it really.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect the overall recipe.
Yeah, the salad is not going to fall apart because you
No.
changed the vinegar on it.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
still going
yeah.
to work. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, or like how finely should I chop this, or like
Yep.
it's not. People don't need to be so scared about it.
Yeah.
You can get away with changing a few things here and there. It's just gonna not taste ultimately like
Yeah.
the recipe, but it will still taste good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I guess that's the basic, whether it's doing food, doing cocktails, doing anything, even building something, as long as it is good, everyone's expression or idea of what good is
Yeah.
is very different,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a Michelin star chef, what they consider good is probably not achievable by mum at home with the Evans
Yes.
cookbook type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, people's definition of good is always different. It's very subjective. It's
Yeah.
like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And so as long as the people that are cooking, if they're going to make their own adjustments, as long as they still think it tastes good, it's pretty much you're winning.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you can roll with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I hear a lot of people like making substitute. Oh, there was somebody, I got an email from somebody, because I used to put recipes in the Herald.
Yep.
And I had an email from somebody saying that they said, I didn't have this, so I used that instead, and then I put some of this in, and I put that in, but it didn't work, and they were complaining. It was a bread, I think. It was a loaf of a seedy bread or something, and they didn't have ingredients, so they substituted this and that, and it's like, how can you expect it to work? Like the ingredients that you told me, that you can't
Yeah.
interchange things that much and then complain to me that my recipes don't work.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, that's kind of like, the name the breadcrumb mojito is the perfect example of that. My first cocktail making behind a bar was essentially a mojito. Just learned how to make the mojito. You need lime, muddle some sugar with it. Looking for sugar, couldn't find sugar, so ended up grabbing a bag of what I thought was brown sugar, adding it in, muddling it. The customer and the bar manager at the time were like, that is not right. And it turns out I had put breadcrumbs in it instead of the sugar. And so that was kind of like, my first big fuck up that ended up turning into a long-lasting bartender career and things like this. And so just you talking about someone taking a bread and subbing out all of these different ingredients, they did it on purpose, I did it on accident, but yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to end up the way you want it. So in saying that, over your cooking journey, what is your version of the breadcrumb mojito? What's the biggest blunder you think you've made in terms of cooking, and how did you learn from that and start progressing into like, okay, make sure I don't do that next time?
That would go back to when I was probably 10. I thought it'd be a good idea to make a dessert lasagna.
Okay, interesting.
And I know it could work because like pasta is like it's flour.
Yep.
You can have a dough essentially. It's a dough.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, that'll work. So I put my lasagna sheets, but I put yogurt. It was berry yogurt, and I think like canned apricots or something. But the pasta. And then I don't know if I cooked the pasta before but anyway, and then I put it in the oven, and then it came out. The pasta wasn't even cooked. It's just like,
Raw pasta and hot yogurt.
it didn't work. I don't know why I thought, because I've been cooking for ages by this point, but this was one of my first, my own recipe.
Okay.
That I made at the age of 10. I thought, I'm gonna create my own recipe.
Was this one of those competitive moments where your sister was doing dinner and you were doing
probably
dessert?
Yeah, so I'm gonna one up her with this out there creation. I think I sprinkled chocolate chips on top or something, but it was inedible. It was inedible. I had to chuck the whole thing out. It's just like hard pasta. When you cut through it, the pasta just goes to
Folds up.
But it didn't stop me because I was like, I know that didn't work. I mean, maybe I'll go back to it in the future, but...
Yeah, have you ever revisited that type of recipe?
I haven't, but I mean, why not? I mean, it's similar to like a trifle, I guess.
Yeah.
You have your, like a cake, it's something a little bit bland. You have your layers of things. So
Interesting. Maybe that's something to come out for in the extended version.
yeah, tiramisu lasagna. Maybe.
Yeah,
That could be nice.
yeah. And like you say, like a trifle or something like that, you can get some different like sponge cake like layers in there
Yeah.
and play around with it.
There's no reason why it wouldn't work. That's the thing. Like, you get all these ideas. You could make any idea work, really. You've just got to understand the balance of flavors. You've
Yeah.
got to make sure you've got enough sweetness, enough acidity, enough salt, enough fat, and then obviously make sure that everything is cooked and prepared well.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can kind of make any idea work.
Yep.
So many ideas that I had were just like random as combinations, and I thought, oh, I don't actually know if this is going to work.
Yep.
But then you taste those ingredients together and you think, oh, actually, if I added a little bit more sweetness, this would work. And that's how a lot of it came about.
Mhm.
It's just like random ideas and just, I want to make this work.
Yep. Yeah, just start playing. And I guess the more you go out and dine, and you need to have that enjoyment, that
Yeah.
passion for it. You
Yeah.
need to be interested in it, be curious.
Yeah.
And that curiosity, just reading through a menu and you see, oh, what is that ingredient?
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that ingredient. Having the courage to sort of take a step into ordering that dish, trying something you've never had before.
Yeah.
That open-minded curiosity is then, I guess, naturally going to link ideas together.
Yeah.
And you think like, oh, cinnamon and orange, for example, like I've had orange juice and I've had cinnamon scrolls or something, and what if I marry cinnamon
Yeah.
and orange together? And I guess that's sort of how chefs and bartenders alike have always sort of developed flavors and things
Yeah.
like that. And so the more you go out and dine, the more, would you call it palate knowledge
Yeah.
you're going to have,
Yeah.
and the more you can just sort of think about things and be like, I think that'll work,
Yeah.
even though you've never tried them before. And then when you actually put them together, okay, this does work, but maybe it's a 2-bit this far,
Yeah.
or
you
it's a
understand
2-bit
the
this direction.
relationship between those ingredients and their flavour, their properties and
Yep.
why they might work together.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say about cinnamon and orange, because in Morocco that is their dessert. Pretty
Okay.
much after every meal, they serve fresh sliced oranges with cinnamon on top.
Oh,
And-
super simple.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that I was travelling with, because it was an intrepid tour,
Yep.
so there were 16 of us, didn't know each other but met there, and a lot of the people at first were like, oh, cinnamon and orange, it's a bit weird, but the Moroccans were like, no, this is how we do it. Like they love the spiciness and because when you just have cinnamon raw, just like literal cinnamon on top of it, it is
Yeah.
quite spicy, but it kind of numbs your palate a little bit and numbs your tongue a little
Mhm,
bit.
mhm.
With the orange, it just completely transforms the flavour of the orange. I don't know, it mellows out the sweetness a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I used to be like, I would have been like 20, so 11 years ago, was one of the first cocktail competitions I ever wanted to get involved in, and it was tequila, and it was kind of like reinventing the shot of tequila. And there's the very classic lime or lemon with salt
Yeah.
and a shot of tequila, which is horrible. And from my understanding, that whole thing is a margarita in your hand. The 3 major components of a margarita, you can just hammer them and go for gold. And I was never super into it, and so I always wanted to do a different variation. And so the reinvention of the shot, I did an orange and cinnamon jelly. And then cut it into cubes, and you had this orange and cinnamon cube with like a shot of reposado tequila, and there was like a cinnamon sugar. And you would lick the cinnamon sugar and get some sweetness, and then you'd take your shot, and then you could finish off with like a nice cooling jelly that sort of like
Yeah.
covered the mouth and things like that.
Yeah, oh, I love that.
And I've always been a fan of cinnamon and orange, like ever since
Yeah.
I started doing that sort of variation, and just taking something so simple, brightening it up a little bit, make it into a jelly and things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that on top of cooking is a whole nother science I've learnt, is gels and anything sort of molecular
Yeah.
is playing around. Is that
My
really something
sister-
your
oh,
your
I'm
sister
not
gets
really into
into it?
molecular. Brooke was like, probably when she was 14.
Yeah.
Was super into molecular gastronomy, so Heston Blumenthal style
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Love
making
his stuff.
Yeah, making like, oh, it was awesome. Like she'd make these plated desserts, like entremets. She was into making entremets, so like layered
Yep.
spheres or domes.
Yep.
With like a shiny gel on top, and then like little, I don't know, pipes of some compote or something.
Yep.
And like crumbs and soils and things like that. And she'd always be making caviar. She'd make these little caviar things, like pearls.
Yep.
Like all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Like
we used to do
buying
contro caviar.
Oh, yum.
It was delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. And she'd have all these boxes of stuff that she'd bought online. Like, oh, just all sorts of random chemical stuff and stuff to bleach. Oh, what was it? She bought something that would bleach things to make it white, and
Okay.
just like all sorts of random stuff. But it was so cool because it was like, it's so creative, and I think that that opened up a different world of food for her as well.
Yeah.
I didn't go down that route. I was super into nutrition when she was into molecular gastronomy, and now we've both sort of come back and then done different things as well.
Yeah.
But I think both of us are always just going to be super into food. That's just
Always competitive.
it's in different spheres though, which I think is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very much the same but very different.
Yeah. I guess that's great, having the same sort of passion, same drive, same etiquette in, going after whatever you want to do and whatever you're trying to achieve, but being able to do it in a different realm.
Yeah.
So you're not both, bringing trifle to Christmas dinner,
Oh yeah.
Like there's
Christmas,
something
that's
a
a
little
whole
bit
other-
different. Yeah, what is
Whole
Christmas like
level
in your
of
house with
competitive.
food?
Like, because all of us really in the family love cooking,
Yep.
and Christmas, normally, well, there's like four. Oh, well, I mean, there's us, like me, Brooke, and my mum loves cooking as well. Dad normally he goes out and gets venison and trout and stuff. So
Okay.
he normally does like venison sausages
Yep.
or candied trout.
Is he the
which is like
barbecue man?
Yeah, he doesn't touch the kitchen, just the barbecue.
Dad's out on the
Does not
barbecue,
touch the
classic
kitchen.
Kiwi father.
Yeah, and then Brooke will normally come up with like, hey, somebody's doing a pie, somebody's doing like, we might have like 3 or 4 salads, somebody's got to do like a bready thing, somebody's got to do like a quiche thing, whatever. And we'll kind of organise who's doing what.
Okay.
But everyone will just bring their most extravagant dishes. Like Christmas is just like, very competitive.
Yep,
Because
yep.
Brooke's made her best thing, and I've made my best thing, and Mum's made her best thing, and Gran's made 1,000 different things, and then Auntie's made something, and Cousin's made this curry, or there's
So that even the extended family gets involved
Yeah.
in bringing something.
everyone brings something to Christmas.
Yeah. Has there been a standout dark horse in the family that you're like, I did not think you were going to bring something that impressive to Christmas dinner?
It's interesting because my cousin, he's a couple of years younger than me, but he has gotten really into cooking in the last couple of years. And I remember a couple of years ago, we didn't really know that he was that much into food, but he made this curry for Christmas. He really wanted to make this potato curry, I think it was, and he made flatbreads to go with it.
Okay.
We were all so impressed because we didn't really know that he was that into cooking.
Yeah.
And it was really, really nice. And every year since, he's always, looked forward to making something.
Love
he came
it.
to my book launch, he bought a cookbook, which is
Oh,
it was
lovely.
so nice. But yeah, it's interesting seeing, I guess, the effect of seeing how competitive we've all been at Christmas.
Yep.
And he's like, nah, I want to get in on this. Makes this really delicious curry.
Love it. Inspired.
Yeah.
Inspired, wants to get involved. That's great.
Yeah.
And I guess he will, try out a lot of your recipes now that he's got your cookbook.
Yes.
And then he will grow from that.
Yeah.
Learn about some different variations. Maybe he'll go do some travelling and things like that. Go to
Yeah.
somewhere different and learn about a couple of random ingredients and then bring it, and hopefully he'll be teaching you guys stuff
Yeah,
at the next
totally.
Christmas.
Yeah. That's
Love
another, travel, to me, travel is just the most eye-opening and
Yep.
confidence building, character building thing. Seriously, it's, I just constantly, I was traveling this year for 6 weeks. I went to Morocco, Vietnam and Bali.
Yep.
But even Vietnam, like the flavors, the food is just amazing.
Yeah, heaps of pho.
Yes, I had a lot of that, and I was trying to eat it with chopsticks because I kept my chops. So embarrassing. I went to this little. There was a cocktail bar that I really wanted to visit.
Okay.
But I had to have some dinner first, so right outside in the street, there was this real busy street in Ho Chi Minh. No, it was Hanoi. I can't remember. Anyway, but it was just really busy sort of street. And it was not a tourist place at all. It was a local place. It was all local people.
Okay, yeah.
And
yeah.
they were and I sat down and they looked at me like, well, what is this girl doing here?
Yeah.
And I couldn't speak and I was like, I just pointed to the menu like, I want that. And they just gave me my soup, handed me chopsticks.
Love
I
it.
didn't know. It was a soup with noodles and stuff.
Yep.
And like with my chopsticks, I don't know how to use them. And
Okay.
as I'm slurping the noodles, it's just like falling off and
Splashing.
my whole face is just covered in broth. And I went to this cocktail bar afterwards. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Oh yeah, it was just amazing.
Okay.
I went back twice in a row. I had like probably 6 cocktails over the time that I was there. And they had all different theatrical things, and each of their cocktails was sort of inspired by an aspect of Vietnam.
Okay. Okay.
And, they did have a pho cocktail, and they serve it to you in a bowl with the star anise and the, I don't know, what else it was, clipped to the side of it.
Okay.
And
Yep.
you drink it like this.
Drink it like yeah.
But it's their theatrics of how they made it. So they had this big burner thing, and they lit the alcohol, so they infused the alcohol with spices. So they had this big burner thing with the spices. There was, I don't know, star anise here, cinnamon here, something else here. And they lit the alcohol and poured it so that it infused as it went down.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, that's what they used to make the cocktail. Then they serve it to you in this pho bowl.
That sounds cool. Like you say, yeah, the theatrics.
Yeah.
Just out the gate. And who doesn't love some fire?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
fire has to be one of the coolest things in bars, but so dangerous at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
when you
yeah.
get a bar that knows how to play with fire and do it safely,
It could go so wrong.
oh, miserable. Yeah, absolutely
Oh.
miserable. I've seen some pretty rough accidents where, even I've seen more videos online of people making monstrous fuck ups where they're like got their shot, they're trying to shoot it while it's still on fire and they spill it and it goes everywhere and lights up and just there is some rough videos that I've seen. But even in bars I've worked in, there's someone that's I'm gonna show you this trick, and they accidentally spill some, at the time I think we used a lot of Bacardi 151, and it's like 75% booze. It lights up across the bar because they accidentally spilled a glass or something.
No.
One of the first nightclubs I ever worked in was here in Taupo, Vertigo, back in the day, and I did a shot that we called the celebration shot, which was like, it's been so long since I've done nightclub shots, but it was like there was this drink, the Iggle Piggle, which was like Kahlua with butterscotch and Baileys and like some raspberry dripped into the top.
Oh yeah.
And it's super sweet, super delicious. And I used to pour some chartreuse on top and then light it and then sprinkle some cinnamon over top. And as the cinnamon would ignite in the flames, and it looked real cool, and that's why we called it the celebration. But then as a safety protocol, while it was on fire, we didn't let a customer touch it. And then we would either blow it out ourselves or ask them to gently blow it out, and then we gave them like a short straw, and they would suck the shot out using a straw, just to, no one wants to get sued here. And we're in a nightclub patrons can tend to get a little bit messy. No one wants to get sued and set on fire.
No.
So we tried to be as safe as possible, and I think like through the period of me working there, I think I made 1,000 of those shots in a weekend,
so cool.
but nothing else. Like never made a margarita, opened a few beers, but didn't make any other drinks apart from that shot. It was just really popular.
Wow.
So I was pretty happy with that.
You should bring it back.
Well, I've thought about it before.
For New Year's.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's I wonder if
Christmas
Jude's got the ingredients here at the bistro, because I might be able to to do one later on when we do a how-to cocktail thing.
Totally.
Play around with it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Even like the 10-year. Oh, sorry, no, 10 years was a couple of years ago. They had a 10-year degustation here.
Okay.
That was a
Oh,
couple
yes.
years ago.
Yes.
But
Yep.
maybe for their birthday.
Yep.
Birthday.
Yeah. No, I remember that 10-year degustation.
Yeah, and I was there.
Yeah, I think I was bartending.
Yes, you were. That was
Yep.
when I first met you.
Yeah.
And Amanda was here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was here slinging drinks, and Amanda came in, and I think she was with like Jules and her family. Jules.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I do remember that dinner.
Yeah.
That was quite good.
That was real cool. The cocktail pairings from Clipper, they were awesome.
Yeah. So there was like the beetroot and apple, pineapple chili margarita. What we're having right here.
Yes,
This was one of the
yeah.
courses. And
there was one that was an aloe vera one that was so memorable.
watermelon aloe.
Yeah, man, that was refreshing.
Yeah, watermelon aloe
That
highball.
was just the ultimate refresher.
Yeah.
I loved it.
A great flavour combination there.
Yeah.
Great flavour
And
combination.
tomato, actually my favourite one was the tomato
The
one.
tomato drink.
It
Yep.
reminded me of like a tomato club sandwich.
Yep.
And it's just so fresh, summery.
Yeah, it's great how some bartenders have a knack for using obscure ingredients in drinks and making it work. Like really,
Yeah.
tomato's only famous for the Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
There's no, and then the tequila version, the Bloody Maria. But there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of originality in there.
Yeah.
So to be able to use something like tomato or beetroot or pumpkin,
And carrot.
carrots. Yeah, there was a carrot cocktail, and
Yeah.
just being able to make that work. Even aloe vera.
Mm.
You don't normally think of aloe vera for a cocktail or in food. You
No.
just see aloe vera juice bottles at the supermarket, and you're just like, I'm just didn't do that, or I'm gonna cut some aloe vera and put it on my sunburn, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't really think about it as a cocktail ingredient.
Nah.
But I should probably check how we're doing for time.
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing there, Mr. Cody?
Almost at 1 hour.
Almost at 1 hour. Happy days. Well, we can just carry on. You're not in a hurry, are you?
Nah, too good.
You got to
Yeah.
get on the road to
Gindulgence.
Gindulgence. So, explain a little bit of Gindulgence to us.
I went to the one in Auckland. Well, I love Winetopia as well. I
Yep.
love all those events where there's just all the different wineries, all the different gin makers in one area.
Because being such a foodie, you go to a lot of different booze
Yeah.
orientated events where it's
Yeah.
all about cocktails and wine. And
Yeah. Because I love that too, and I love pairing as well. I love food and wine pairing and
Yep.
food and cocktail pairing. But yeah, Gindulgence is cool. I went to the one in Auckland it was earlier this year. And yeah, pretty much you get your glass, similar to Winetopia, you get your glass and you go around to the different gin. They all have their own stalls, similar to like a market or an exhibition.
Yep.
And they have all their gins there, and you can taste samples of them.
Okay.
And you can also buy cocktails. So each of the gin makers have their own cocktails, special cocktails for that event.
Yep.
Only like $10-$12 sort of thing. So yeah, it's just a good way to discover new brands of gin that you might not have tried before, because
Yep.
you just get little samples of each one.
Yep.
And you just discover things that you might never try otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you tend to attend all of those sort of events on just a personal, public basis, just to fuel your own curiosity, or is a lot of them based around like you go in there to learn something, you're doing some research, you're doing some photography? Because when we did the Bistro Clipper dinner here, you came and did all the photos and things like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every event that I run into you at, you've always got the camera going. There's always the
Yeah.
camera going.
And it's a lot of it is like passion, because I love those events, and same with Winetopia. First time I went, it was just as a customer, I was just passionate about it. I wanted to learn about the different wineries. I just was really curious about it.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about having Instagram as well. Like I was just there as just a person, and I just shared about it. And
Yeah.
the next year they got in touch and they gave me tickets and asked me to come along and do some social media stuff. And so for the past few years I've been coming to Winetopia and doing social media stuff and photography and all that. And yes, same like Gindulgence, I think I won tickets to the first one. And then I met a client there, so I was
Okay.
tasting all the gins and stuff, and I ran into somebody, I was talking to her, and she became a client. So now I've done photos for her gins, and she
Love it.
gave me tickets to this one. And she's got a new gin coming out soon, so I'm going to pick up that gin and do a photo shoot for it. But it's just, I just love meeting the brands that I work with face to face.
Yep.
Same as the food shows. Went to the food show in Auckland earlier this year, and there were so many brands that I've worked with, email chains and stuff, social media and stuff, but never met face to face. And it's so cool when you finally meet those brands face to face, put a face to a name.
Yeah.
And then you also meet new potential clients. I made a few new clients from the food show as well. So you never know who you're going to meet. You just got to start talking and showing an interest in their product.
Totally. And is there any sort of standout brands that once you've come across them, you're just like mesmerized by what they're doing for whatever reason, whether it be the product that they're producing, the people that are involved with it, or what is a standout brand that you've come across? That
I like it when there's a lot of passion behind it. Even Chop Online Meats. I think the Tattooed Butcher. I don't know if you know him.
I've heard the name.
Yeah.
But don't.
Super just like coming up with all these like random ideas, like really cool ideas for new sausage flavors and new salami flavors and all these different things. And he was sending me because I've done photography work for him before, just because we followed each other on Instagram pages. And then he sent me some product to do photo shoots for. And then I met him properly at the food show, and he had all these different like ideas, all these sausages out, and he was like, "Oh, try this." He's just so super passionate and inspired about it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Does he do a version of the sausage pate thing that we were talking about earlier?
Oh, the nduja. No, he doesn't have one of those, but he should actually. Yeah.
That was the first thing that came to mind when you mentioned that.
You should.
I wonder if they would do a version of that, because that seems right in his.
Because there's no New Zealand. I don't think there's a New Zealand producer of it. Well, because it is a Calabrian thing. I think they use the Calabrian chilies.
Okay.
So all of the nduja that you get is imported, really. But you could do a New Zealand version of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be popular because it's just like chili oil. As soon as it's a real trend at the moment.
Yeah.
And as soon as you try it, once at a restaurant or something, and you're just like, oh, I've got to have it. You see it in the shop, you buy it, you keep buying it. Now all these brands are doing chili oil.
Yeah. It's funny how oils and little they seem so simple, but they just kick off. It's like the flavour of the month type thing. You see that with I think gin is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
5-10 years ago, how many gin distilleries were in New Zealand?
I know.
Almost zero. And then
yeah.
it's massive now. There's I
go to
hundreds.
the gin trap. Went to the gin trap in Napier recently, and I was amazed at how many New Zealand distillers there were.
Yeah.
But even because they have like Australian gins and other gins as well, it was just huge, like book of gins.
Yeah.
So it's like overwhelming. I spent like half an hour reading it, and I still couldn't decide. I just picked a random one.
Yeah, crazy. I remember when I first moved to Melbourne, and that would have been 2010, 2011, and there was 3 distilleries in Australia, and there was a whiskey distillery in Tasmania, there was Bundaberg in I can't remember if that's New South Wales or Queensland, and then there was one over in Perth, I think, but 3 distilleries.
Yeah.
10 years later, when I left, there was something like 234 registered distilleries.
Jeez.
And so it had just boomed
Yeah.
in 10 years. They went from almost nothing to being almost overpopulated.
Man.
And we saw it in the bars that every person that came in the door that was a rep had a new type of gin.
Wow.
And it's so hard because, there's only so much you can do sometimes before you're repeating what someone else has done before, but you're just putting it in a different looking bottle and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of New Zealand brands, gin is obviously booming right now in New Zealand and has for the last couple of years. That a lot of the strongest players in the gin world really making whiskey, and they're putting gin out while they wait for the whiskey to age. And
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's a business.
Yeah.
You got to keep money coming in. You got to be able to cash flow it, just so you have time to, you know, buy time to get to where the whiskey's ready, so you can release it and start having this New Zealand sort of whiskey movement and things like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I get a little bit, I don't know if it's concerned or confused with how many new versions of a type of spirit come out, because it floods the market. People get confused. There's, you know, when you talk about gin trap, there's 100 gins on the menu. People that are really interested in gin and gin lovers, they're going to be trying everything.
Yeah.
And you try so much that you struggle to tell them apart.
Yeah,
Then sometimes.
yeah.
And really, I think that is more of a branding and marketing exercise. The
Yeah.
person that can make the best looking bottle and brand and have the best message is going to win.
Yeah.
Because the product itself gets sort of...
Yeah, there's
lost.
only so much variation you can have on that.
Yeah, totally. And I
that
mean,
drink.
it's like, you know, with your cooking and baking and things like that, bread, you know, there's only so many versions of a sourdough
Yeah.
that can be
yeah,
done before you start to lose what a sourdough is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same with like cakes and stuff. You kind of come back to that basic recipe.
Yeah, and things like chocolate and banana are always going to, you know, withstand the test of time.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're continuously trying to make something different,
Yeah.
that like, love the creativity, go with it, you got to try shit, you got to find out what doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
then, as long as you always have a sort of staple that you can come back to and
Definitely.
rely on, and you know it's always going to work every time you do it, it's always going to be a crowd pleaser and a
Yeah.
favourite, rather than like, you don't want to be the person that comes up at Christmas dinner and has spent hours and hours and hours slaving over this thing that's never been made before, and then as soon as someone goes to eat it or
and
drink
it's
it, they're
just
like,
a flop. Yeah. That happened to me before at Christmas.
okay, tell
It
us.
was-
This
oh,
is
it
your
was a
breadcrumb
recipe.
mojito then.
It was a recipe that I found online. And
Okay.
I thought, oh, well, I'll give it a try because it looked really cool. It was a cheesecake. Oh, it was a vegan cheesecake.
Yeah.
And it was made with cashews and stuff, and it had this jelly topping, but it was made with, was it dragon fruit?
Okay.
Dragon fruit, and it had a buckwheat crust. And I had dragon fruit powder, so I made it anyway. And the buckwheat crust though was like this disgusting.
Okay.
You cut into it. The buckwheat, it was not sweet at all.
Yep.
It was just like bitter. I don't know how to describe it. Like the flavour
Not
of
good.
buckwheat, just like toasted buckwheat. But when you're expecting sweet,
Yeah.
it's like woo.
Yeah, a bit confronting, like you say,
Yeah.
bitter, the
And,
total opposite.
Like the cheesecake was not sweet at all. The jelly topping was just like too firm. It was just did not work. And you see things like that sometimes that intrigue you, but it's I mean,
Live and learn.
Yeah, and you gotta try it. You know, there's no harm in trying, but
Yep. No, 100%. Well,
yeah.
we should probably wrap up. Give us a quick synopsis of where to find you,
Oh yeah.
where to find your book.
Yeah. So on Instagram at That Green Olive. Yeah.
Marvellous.
Same as the book.
Yep.
That Green Olive. It's in Whitcoul's Paper Plus. Otherwise, online on my website www.thatgreenolive.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Olivia.
Oh, thanks
This
for
is a good
having
chat.
me.
No
That's a
worries.
good drink.
Yeah, no worries at all. It's nice to sit down and have a cocktail while we chat away. And
Yeah, at
kill
10
some-
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. It probably was a little bit early, but I mean, it's a Saturday.
No, it's never
You know,
too
we can relax. I've got to warm you up so you can go and enjoy some
Gins.
cocktails later on.
Yeah, and later on, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Marvelous. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no,
Been a
thank
pleasure.
you. Yeah.